Hey girls, it's book club time. I'm here and I'm trying to adjust. I have good news. I have a tripod in the mail that's going to make beautiful videos for you, but I thought it was going to be here and it's not. So you have one more Facebook Live, this one, where I'm going to be wiggly on the camera. And so I appreciate your patience on that as I work on my technology issues. But it's in the mail tomorrow, and I have a whole month to play with it to get it stable for you next. Book club. Okay, so today we're talking about Get Out of Your Head by Jennie Allen. Yay. Loved this book. It was a challenging, intense book that was so practical and needed in my life. And I hope that you enjoyed it too. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about, and we'll see if I get to all that stuff because it was like I couldn't stop tagging things I wanted to talk about. My other thought I did want to let you know is as I continue making these book clubs, I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the discussion of books I'm already reading. I enjoyed the application and making these workbooks for you guys. And so this has been really fun. So I did want to let you know that in the future, I am planning for 2024 to have a regular book club that I would love to actually be on Zoom with you guys and see your faces, because right now this feels more like a book lecture. And I would love for it to be more of a book club feel. So 2024, I am brainstorming how to do like a Zoom meeting or something that makes it really simple for us all to get on and see each other's faces, and I can hear your voices and we can have a discussion. The other cool thing about that is if I'm on a Zoom, I can screen share. So you could see these worksheets on my computer screen, and I can even write on the computer screen and all that fun stuff. So I won't have this mess of videos bouncing up and down and you trying to see a grainy worksheet. So keep that in mind if you would be interested in joining a Zoom conversation in the future for a book club. Also, I put a poll out in my Instagram stories, and I'd love to hear from you guys too. This time works for me because I work from home, but it might not work for you. And I know a lot of you will watch these after they have the replay, which is great too. And I love that feature, being able to watch the replay. But I know that it is a lot of you are at work on your lunch break and trying to rush or whatever. So I would love your input for in the future book clubs if Friday at 12 Texas time is working for you, or if there's a different time on Fridays that works for you. So love your input. We still have time to figure all those details out. But now that we've got some people in the group, let's go ahead and start talking about Get Out of Your Head. So you don't have to have read this book to have this discussion with us. All of us, I'm pretty sure, deal with some form of anxiety, especially since COVID and all the news that we're inundated with. If you have children, if you have health issues, yeah, we're dealing with toxic thoughts all the time. So the first thing I wanted to know is, I see your names, but I don't know where you guys are living. So if you could put what state or country you live in the comments, I'd love to know. And maybe even what time zone, like if it's 3 in the morning instead of 12 in the afternoon. So let me know where you're watching from and what time is it there. And then the other thing I thought we could share is do an emoji of what you thought of the book if you read it. Give me an emoji if you read it and loved it, read it and couldn't get through it, read it and wasn't your cup of tea. So share an emoji about that, and also share where you're watching from and what time it is. There should be a comment button. You can add your comment. Nobody? Anybody? Okay, while you're working on that, I'm going to talk about some things that stood out to me in this, and then I'll give that about 5 minutes to go through some things I wanted to talk about that stood out to me. And then I'll flip the camera around to my desk to walk you through these worksheets. If you don't know where the worksheets are, this is a good time to get them. I just downloaded them to the Facebook group. They're under files. So you click get out of your head, that's under the files, and it'll pull up 3-week worksheets, and you can print those out now or later. So let me just start digging into some of the things I wanted to point out in this book. So it said on page 14, if you've got your book, there are 3 lies, 3 categories that every lie we believe goes into. And I wanted to know your thoughts on this. The first lie was, I'm helpless. The second is, I'm worthless. And the third one is, I'm unlovable. So for example, when I've got health issues, I believe I'm helpless. When I feel like I need other people to do something for me because I can't, I feel needy, I feel worthless. When I feel like I've disappointed people, I can feel unlovable. So it's saying how all these different lies will fit in one of these 3 categories. And so that was kind of a hard one, because it's like, well, I don't think I'm helpless, worthless, or unlovable. And then you start thinking about, well, what lies am I believing? And then I'm realizing they do fit in those categories. Therefore, I do believe these lies about myself. So I thought that was insightful. To put it so simply was kind of hard to read. She also said the danger of toxic thinking when we have these spiraling thoughts is it produces an alternate reality, one in which distorted reasoning actually seems to make sense. And this was bolded in here, and I highlighted it, and I put a sticky note, because how true is this when you're going in this rabbit hole of thinking that it's almost starts to make sense. And a silly example of this is parenting. When I don't get away from my kids, go on a date night, get an hour to go to the grocery store without the children there or something, I don't have any perspective. And it's like, we're just yelling at each other, they're fighting with each other, I'm feeling like I'm failing as a parent, or I feel like my kids are really annoying. It's just that terrible perspective that I've got. And I'm starting to believe all these things are true, or this will never end, or this season of learning will just be ridiculously long. And so when we get out and we have those times, lots of times when my husband and I go on a date, then we're like, all we do is talk about the kids. And it's like, oh, I want to go see them. It's like, really? All you wanted to do is get away, and now all we want to do is get back. And that's that perspective. That's that distorted reasoning. And the way that Jennie Allen says we can combat that spiral of thoughts is interrupting not every single thought that we have, but just taking one thought captive. So we don't have to worry about all the thoughts. We just need to make the choice in that moment, right then. I have a choice to stop this negative thinking. And so that was really empowering as well, because I feel like, how am I going to solve just this overwhelming feeling I'm always feeling? And I was thinking this, and I was thinking this, and I was thinking this, and what if this, and what if this? And she's telling us, don't worry about all that. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Just focus on this one thought in the moment that you're in right now. Stop that thought. Tell yourself, I have a choice. I can continue this thinking, or I can change my thinking. And then I'm reading and reading, because I'm like, well, what else do I think? I don't know what else to think. And so she said what she did during her trials of this was, it was so intense. She was so depressed, and she was so far down this rabbit hole that she reached out to people and told them this is what's going on. And that is a great step. If you can find people that you trust, that you can say, I'm struggling with this, I need your help. And then you're not feeling so alone and abandoned. Then you're not feeling like you're crazy for thinking these things, because usually people are like, I thought that too. You can relate to people. The other thing is, if you seek out wisdom from people you respect, they might have advice for you that could help you, or a counselor might help you. Her friends helped her go on a 24-hour fast. So her and 2 friends, Jennie said, went on a 24-hour fast. And it says water, that was it. For a full day, we take the energy that usually went into thinking about food. This is page 31. Preparing food, eating food, and directed it toward prayer. We'd pray for my confidence. We prayed for my steadiness. We'd pray for my faith. And so they reminded her, this way of thinking is not who you are. And I just loved that. And I know not all of us have those friends that we could go to. And I have been in those seasons as well. And I'm really reaching out to people in my past that have mentored me before, or I respect them, or I feel like they would be open to listening. And it's been the best thing to just connect with people and reach out and ask for that help, ask to have those hard conversations, get counseling. I've done all these things, and I just really encourage you to not be afraid to do that as well. Okay, page 39. I actually want you to look at your worksheet. So I'm gonna flip this around. You could turn to page 39 if you'd like, but really I just need you to get out the worksheet that looks like this. Whoa. And yay, I got the camera not to flip it backwards, so I'm getting a little better at this. So I'm gonna try to flip the camera around while you get out that worksheet. That's the one we're gonna start on, and yeah, see you in a second. Okay, almost got it. This is why I can't wait for my new tripod. Girls. Okay, did that do it? Almost there. Okay, that'll have to do for today because I have terrible equipment. Thank you for being patient with me. Okay, so I made this coloring page not just like to have a random thing, but I wanted to use this as a way to kind of activate that you're choosing these things. So in the book on page 39, she says, how we think directly results in how we live. We can learn to take one thought captive, which is what I just talked about, and in doing so, affect every other thought to come. So she's saying, if you don't worry about all the before thoughts, just focus on one, it'll have a ripple effect for the future thoughts. Okay, so the point is you have a choice. And then it is actually page 46 that I got these from. Page 46 says, when we're spiraling in noise or distractedness, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through stillness. When we're spiraling in isolation, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through community. When we're spiraling in anxiety, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through trust in His good and sovereign purposes. When we're spiraling in cynicism, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through worship. In the book later, it calls this also delight. When we're spiraling in self-importance, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through humility. When we're spiraling into victimhood, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through gratitude. And when we're spiraling in complacency, we have a choice to shift our minds back to God through serving Him and others, intentionality. So in doing this worksheet, I have made it so you can color it. And as you're coloring these words in, I want you to meditate on the choice that you are making. Maybe one day you really want to focus on community. So you just start coloring things and you're going to color in community while giving a prayer of praise and dedication to God, that you're going to focus instead on community instead of, what does it say? Isolation. So on page 46 is kind of the opposite of the negative side, and this is the positive that you're choosing. So this is a great coloring / meditation worksheet to choose these things. Now let's get into the details of what this looks like and how to do it, or how our brains kind of process this. So I have right here, those feelings of loneliness, those feelings of anxiety, those feelings of being, or those consequences of being discontent, shame, fear, hurt, anger, self-pity, stress. You're going to feel those insecurity, loneliness, anxiety, cynicism, unknown or feeling unloved, consistently unhappy and bored. And what I got all these from are, not there yet, are on here. Of course, I can't find it right now. Okay, so here she has these in the book. She's got these all over. Here's the lie. I'll feel better if I stay distracted, but the truth is only being with God will satisfy me. And says, so I'm going to choose to be still with God. So she had the lie, then she had the truth, then she had the choice that you can make. And those are on every chapter at the end. And then she also had these graphs, which show your emotion, the thought, the behavior, or that consequence, and then that leads to that consequence. And then she had, if you had the thing that you choose, the new consequence. So this right here is where I got the meat of all this stuff from, and this, but these confused me. This might have been super clear in your head, but following this was like, wait, what? Which one are we on? So I felt like I couldn't have clarity in my mind looking at it this way. So all I did was took every single chapter that had this in the lie and the truth, and I made my own sheet right here. So here is that negative emotion she's talking about. Here's that thought you might have. Here's how you're going to feel now. And then she's saying this is the choice that you can have instead. So think this new thought, and that will have this consequence, aka this blessing now, because you've chosen that new thought. So for example, this one was about being distracted. So let's see how I've written it out here. You're feeling discontent is your emotion. I'll feel better if I stay distracted is what you're thinking. So you're feeling insecure. So if you're feeling, or if you're thinking, I'll feel better if I stay distracted, you need to choose to be still. So how can you do that? You think this new thought. Only being with God can satisfy me. And the more you're with God, you're going to feel secure. So this might be looking like, I'm stressed, I'm going to feel distracted, I'm just going to binge Netflix. Your new thought is, no, I'm just going to be still. I'm going to pray to God. I'm going to meditate to God. I'm going to be fasting. And so this leads to this. Your insecurity leads to your security. And so I'm not going to go through every single one of these. You can print these out, but I want you to know how that works. I want you to use this as a cheat sheet for these thoughts. So first you're going to look at, what emotion am I feeling? I'm feeling stressed. So I'm thinking, I'm just going to control this by, I'll just do whatever I want. I'm not going to do what other people want. But now I'm bored because I'm just doing the same thing over and over. It's not solving anything. So I'm going to choose to seek the good in others instead. And so I'm going to think, God has set me free to seek the good of others over my own comfort. So instead of me focusing on my problems, I'm going to get some perspective. I'm going to look at other people's life and see what's going on in theirs. So I'm not feeling sorry for myself or alone in this. I'm seeking out help if I need it. I'm seeking out perspective if I need it. I'm seeking out gratitude if I need it. And so that you can actually be effective to other people. Sometimes you don't have the capacity to help other people when you're stressed, but you sure can reach out for help and not just go it alone. Okay, so the other thing I have on here at the bottom of the page is something that came from the back of the book, which is on page 205. And it's talking about patterns that Jesus chose. So because Jesus did this, you can choose this. So in making these choices, this just expands on them. But we're looking at, what did that choice look like in Jesus's life? So right here we've got, Jesus stole away from the crowds to be with his Father, and these are all taken from page 205. So you can choose to be still with God instead of distracting yourself. Okay, so here we've got the distraction is the first line. The first line down here is how Jesus dealt with that. So the next one is about loneliness. The next line is about how Jesus dealt with loneliness. Jesus chose to live in community with 12 men before he ascended into heaven. So you can choose to let people know you instead of isolating yourself. So we've got all these things that are how we deal with things in a healthy and an unhealthy way, and then also the perspective of how Jesus did it, and so what we can do. Okay, let me see. The last page that I had was this mental story map. And she had this in the book, and it was on page 52. So it's on page 52 and 53. So if you go to page 52, she walks you through how to fill this out. And there wasn't a printable for this. It was just kind of saying, write this on a piece of paper. So that's why I made you a printable for it. So the mental story map is how to deal with being aware of what you're thinking about. So sometimes you might not even know. I don't know what new thought to pick because I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. All I know is just I'm angry. And I don't have any perspective on how to deal with this right now. I'm just angry. It's a lot of work to sit down and calm yourself down when you're feeling these emotions. And so this kind of helps you walk through that. So with this one example in the book, she had put right in the center blank page, the primary feeling or emotion you're experiencing right now, good or bad. So let's go with she has an example of overwhelmed in the book, but just to give you another example, let's write, I'm having anger. This is my emotion right now. So you can put whatever emotion you want in there that you're dealing with. Okay, whatever it is, jot it down, draw a big circle around the word, got it? Scattered around a large circle, write everything you can think of that's contributing to that feeling or emotion. Well, I am, maybe you're stressed out at work. You have an annoying boss. I'm sure no one can relate to this. Or you are overwhelmed with project deadlines. Or there's drama between your coworkers. Okay, so these are just examples. Luckily, I work for myself now, so I have eliminated that. However, I have to deal with my loneliness I've got to combat. So one problem is always replaced by another. You've got friends. Maybe you're just feeling lonely lately. You're too busy at work. Or maybe you're feeling not connected with the ones you are friends with. You're just feeling like it's a lot of small talk. Maybe your faith is struggling. Maybe you're angry because it's like, I'm feeling disconnected in my faith as well. Maybe you have not been to church in a while. And so that's part of the problem as well. Or maybe you met or you're trying a new church, which is good, but you're just not connecting yet. You're in that in between. Okay, maybe you're angry because of your health. Maybe it's flu season, or your family just came down with COVID. That's been happening. Not with my family, but a lot of kids at school, and so we're starting to get that stress about, okay, when's our turn? So you would take this and list how each factor has been contributing to that emotion. Step 2 is right here. This is step 2. Don't forget, after you've done this, you're going to talk to God about it. She says, talk to God about it. That is not hard to remember in this. She doesn't make it complicated. This is the hardest part, is just to write this out. And then she reminds you, talk to God about it. Be real with him. Journal it. Pray for it. Pray about it. Fast about it. talk to him, listen in silence, and see if you feel anything that the Holy Spirit is sharing with you. Go to his word. Look for the truths he's given you. Tell him about it. Ask him to show what you're believing wrongly about him and yourself. And then step 3 is, what do you believe about God? So look for patterns and common themes in this. What are you believing about God when you look at all this? Are you worrying about things you can't control? I can't control flu season. Are you worried about how you've been wronged? Okay, well, maybe your boss is driving you crazy. Are you obsessed with what you don't have? I don't have connection with friends. Are you have food, sex, entertainment, or money taken over your thought? So maybe you're feeling disconnected in your faith because you're not prioritizing it. Are you ashamed of what you've done in the past? So maybe you've got regrets. I can't relate to that at all. Are you self-critical? Do you beat yourself up? Are some of your thoughts unkind toward yourself? Are you talking to yourself like you would talk to anybody else? Or are you the biggest jerk to yourself in your thought life? So the point of this is not to beat you down more. It's to find these patterns and common themes so that you can recognize them for what they are. If you don't realize you're angry until you wrote down, oh man, I am angry, then you can deal with it. If you realize I'm stressed out about flu season and then realize there's not much I can do about this except wash our hands and talk to our kids about good hygiene, and we're just not going to worry about what ifs right now, that can take some stress off you as well, because you don't want to borrow trouble from tomorrow. If you're looking at faith and been like, oh, I guess I realize I really haven't been in my Bible in a while, we're not connecting at church because we're not prioritizing church, then you'd be able to make a plan of action for that. Maybe this helps you look at, well, what is it about work that's stressing me out? Am I always late? Am I unprepared? Or is it a toxic environment that I need to have a conversation with some people about, or I need to look for a new job? All of this can help you take an action step to not feel helpless in this situation. And so this has been really helpful for me to, because I'm such a visual person, is to kind of write down what I'm going through and then see those patterns so that I can take action or let things go that I need to calm down about. Okay, so let me flip this around if I haven't made you dizzy already doing that the first time. Woo! All right. Oh, I'm very low. Thank you for your patience. You guys are like, she's crazy. Okay, I did want to add one more thing. It's almost been about 30 minutes, so I wanted to wrap this up about 12:30. So in the chapter about the section that's part 2, the part 1 is talking about all these thoughts, how to take them captive, and part 2 is taking down the enemies of our mind. And I thought that it was really interesting that she wrote about people in the Bible had thoughts before they did something too, and they had choices to make as well. So it said before Eve ate the fruit, she had a thought. It was pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom. And then she made that choice to take some and eat it. David, before he sinned with Bathsheba and had her husband killed, had a thought, that woman is beautiful and I want her. Before Mary birthed Jesus, she had a thought, I'm the servant of the Lord, let it to be me according to your word. And before Jesus chose to go to the cross, he had a thought, Father, not my will, but yours be done. So you have 2 examples of people that royally screwed up in making the right choice, and 2 people who were trusting and courageous and made the choice they needed to. And maybe your choice isn't a huge choice right now, but it's just something you need to acknowledge that you have a choice so it doesn't feel so overwhelming anymore. It says every great or horrible act we see in history and in our lives is preceded by a thought. So I love that I feel not helpless, and I feel like I do have some control of how I deal with these thoughts. Obviously, if you're having anxiety that needs to be dealt with medication or doctor visit or counseling, I have done all of those things. There is no judgment here. I've been through some really hard things that I needed more help than just reading a book about. I highly encourage you to give yourself permission to do whatever it is you need to help you take these thoughts captive. But I was really inspired by this book of just the practical tools she gave us, and just some of the powerful stories she had in here. That first story about being in the church, that was intense. If you have not read this book, I still recommend you to go back and read it. It was life-changing to help me with my own anxiety, to just remember I have a choice in this was very helpful. But get the help you need through professionals or whatever you need. Don't do this alone. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm so glad you're here to talk about this or listen to me talk about this. I really, really, really want to change this into a Zoom format so that I can hear from you and see your pretty faces. But for now, we're sticking to what we're still doing. October's book is called A Simplified Life by Emily Lay, and it's from a Christian perspective, but it's more lighthearted than this one. It's talking about creating routines in your life, organizing things. If you've heard of Emily Lay's Simplified Life planners, she helps you like just get your weekly events organized, all kinds of things. And we're going to be talking about how all these parts of your life, being a wife, a mother, a Bible reader, a student of God, that you can fit these together to make this practical and something that you could make sustainable. So A Simplified Life is going to be the last Friday in October. We'll discuss it, so you can grab it today and start reading it if you'd like. I have an Amazon storefront. Is the simplest place to find every book for the book club all the way through the end of the year. And I will leave the link. It's amazon.com/shop/Amy Center. And there's a book club link right there with all these books. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. In the comments, if you have any questions or just want to share anything. Love you guys. See you next month.